Hey everyone, George Weber here, Gwebberarts, and we're here in the cave and we're doing another segment on our low budget model train layout. So let's get right into that and take a look at where it is now that we've updated from the initial build. Okay, so here we are. If you've watched the $200 train table, you probably have some idea of where we're at. I built this train table for $200, and it could have been much less if I didn't need all that under storage. If you just wanted to build a nice 4x8 family type train table for the kids and the family and whatnot, this could have been easily done without the under storage, and the table would be about $100. So the next thing I did, and I may or may not have mentioned this during the video, I put down a sheet of pink insulation foam from Corning and then painted that using Woodland Scenics ground cover, which is a paint that comes in assorted shades of green and brown and so forth and so on. And I just kind of used a little of each in order to give myself a base color to go underneath what will eventually have grass and other scenery. Then I laid out an oval using Bachmann Easy Track. Laid out an oval, and once I tested it and made sure that the oval worked well, I traced it using a China marker. Don't use magic markers because that will bleed up through your scenery. If you use any alcohol, the magic marker will become liquid again and it'll come right up through your scenery. So I traced all my track using a China marker, pulled up the easy track, and then following my tracing, I put down Woodland Scenics foam roadbed, which is nice and soft and pliable, much better than cork, and much quieter. Then I use my flex track, which I soldered all together. Each segment is soldered to the next, so it's all one piece rail. And eventually I'll be putting down feeder wires through each segment, so there'll be probably about 8 sections, but we'll get to that in the future. Then my next big project was to create this upper level track. Again, I used my easy track to create a layout, just a basic form, and I did it flat on the table at first and tested it to see if I liked the way it traveled and so forth and so on, and make sure that it fit more or less the way I thought it would fit. And once it was tested, I expanded it just slightly so that it now goes above this end of the track and somewhat goes over this end of the track, which gives me 2 areas that can become tunnels in the future, allowing me to build some nice hill scenery in the corners coming out into my infield area. The easy track is currently just held up with sections of foam block, and what this is from Woodland Scenics. I got 4-inch riser material, which looks like this when you buy it. It's a big long segment, and I only bought 2 of them, and or was it 3? Possibly 3, I can't remember. And I cut the sections so that I could just create these pillars to hold everything up. That way I didn't have to spend a lot of money doing this great big thing along the entire track, which some people do. If you're putting down heavy scenery, then you'd probably want to do that. But I'm not. I plan on doing a lot of this secondary track up on pillars. So that's the way I kind of pinned it together to see how it would work. Speaking of pinning it together, let's see if I can get in close enough here. You might be able to see that when I zoom in, hopefully. Here we go. That's a great big 2-inch T-pin. And I've used one on either side to pin the pillar to the base so it doesn't move around too much. And then I've used T-pins on either side of the track to pin it in place so that it doesn't move left and right very much from the vibrations of the train. So while it looks very shaky, thus the name Rickety Railroad, it's actually fairly solid, and you can run trains on it, which I will do shortly. All right, so now that we've gotten a pretty good look at that, and I've told you a little bit about what I've done with it for upgrades and updates, now let's get to the important part, and that's seeing the trains run. So here we go. Okay, so first up, we're going to take a look at my little Rivarossi, or Rivasi. And if you've watched some of my other videos, you know that I bought this out of the project box at Swayze's Hardware and Hobby as a bag of bits and pieces to some degree. But it was pretty evident that the whole engine was there, except for the boiler faceplate, which I made out of styrene. And, well, let's just get her running and see what she does. I would say that's a pretty good running engine for $5. Not even at half power. And she just pulls those cars right around, not a problem. Let's get another nice close view of it. All right, and now we're going to fire up my other Rivasi, however you care to pronounce it. And this one I also bought out of the parts bin, or projects bin, and rebuilt. And she runs real nice too. You can see it back there. Eventually that whole back section will be bridges and maybe a hill in the middle somewhere so that you can watch the train go by in the back very easily. Different portions of the track you can watch both trains without any problems. Get nice views of them. Eventually down in the corners we'll have some tunnel action. So we'll have a nice view of the train coming out of the tunnel like that. That's going to be nice. Nice overhead shots. So that's the current state of the layout. And yeah, it's right now it looks a little funky and weird, but I have spent very, very little money getting my basic layout put together. And each layer that goes onto it doesn't cost me that much more. When I get into actually putting in finished scenery, that'll probably be the part where the expense starts to build up a little bit. And if I'm clever enough and I find good deals on some items, I will be able to do that relatively inexpensively, and I hope you guys will follow along to see how that happens. So if you've liked this video, by all means subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell so you'll know when I put out some more of these segments on this low budget railroad as it grows and gets better. And maybe you'll get some tips and tricks on how to build your railroad without spending a fortune. Right now, my railroad empire, as you see it, including the table, costs less than what 2 brand new, good running DCC with sound locomotives would probably cost you. And I've got a lot more train than 2 engines. Granted, I don't have fancy DCC. Granted, I don't have fancy sound and all of that. But I don't really need all of that. I just need to have a nice little train table where I can have some fun building my scenery and my trains. All right. So that's it for this video. Again, feel free to put some comments below. We'd love to hear from you. If you have questions about anything I'm doing, by all means, shoot some questions over. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. See you guys later in the next segment.